increase than we're currently evaluating or looking at. I wanted to ask you if that number was correct, and then also my understanding is that we went to the state legislature and asked them to reallocate building funds for the Getchell remodel, and they said no. They said use it for the English building or lose it. So I just wanted to check on those figures.
As for the dollar amount, I'm not really sure exactly what the renovation cost for the building would be. A lot of that depends on what the design of the building would be, because the way the process for the Getchell remodel work is essentially different departments and things would bid to be inside of the building, and then they would develop an internal structure based on those needs. And so that's how that would work. In terms of the actual dollar amount, like I said, I don't know where that would come from, but again, I don't think you can compare bienniums in the future in terms of capital improvement dollars to now. Simply, I mean, it's murky water simply because, well, we have different building priorities now in terms of capital improvements around the system, whereas those might be very different in the future. Capital improvement funds from this last year were used for going into to complete the Math and Science Center, going into the Center for Molecular Medicine. Those types of places were what had precedent for state capital dollars in the past. And so in the future, that circumstance could change dramatically, especially for something that, and I can tell you this, that building in the south of campus is definitely the priority for capital improvement money at this university, because it's a giant, I mean, it's like 165,000 square feet sitting empty in the middle of campus. And so that definitely has priority in the future for new renovated dollars.
I know we were talking about the Getchell issue, but I'm more focused on a temporary issue of having the writing center between two buildings. Mm-hmm. Most of the time students come and their teacher says after a bad paper, go to visit the writing center. Mm-hmm. How are they going to know what building it's in during that temporary time?
Students have to make an appointment to visit the writing center.
Right.
And so they would be informed when you make your appointment. You can be in the Kane Hall location or in the Max Social Science location. Students would be informed before when they make their appointment, which location they will be at.
By like implementing a phone to call that connects both buildings, or I'm confused?
No, that's what this classified staff position is, that centralized person. Okay. And so that person would be in charge of doing all the scheduling for both locations. And so they would be in charge, you call that person, you make your appointment, they're in charge of the budgeting processes and things for the center itself too, and a lot of the day-to-day operational costs, or operational issues and things like that. So yeah, when you make your appointment with that person, you would get an email confirmation, or however it would essentially work, that would basically say, okay, you're at the Kane Hall location or Mac.
Are the 17 tutors going to be student positions, or who would that be?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Upper division?
They would, as for the screening process, I guess, for the writing center tutors, most of them would be higher level English students, but also what we'd like to do is, like I said, once these dollars become available after the first year, we'd like to have tutors, and you'll see this in the tutoring center budget, writing tutors for specific areas. Because when you write a political science paper or an English paper, that's much different than writing a comprehensive lab report or something like that. So we'd like to attract tutors from higher level other disciplines so that a chemistry student or a physics student can come in and they can get help for that writing assistance as well. That's specific to their field of study. If I continue? Okay. New monies would restore the full capability of the Writing Center, provide employment for students, support specialized writing instruction, like I said, in the sciences and engineering in particular. And then we create a springboard for what we call writing in the disciplines, which is a new campus-wide approach to how we integrate writing into the core curriculum to make it more accessible to students. The Tutoring Center. In terms of state funding, right now the Tutoring Center is funded $64,000 from the state of Nevada budget. That pays for the director and the operating costs. We would have a 75% time administrative support person to handle scheduling and those types of things. Host would be about $2,000 for thank you receptions for tutors or students to have coffee within the tutoring center and things like that. Tech support, about $8,600 because they do utilize computers a lot. Most of that money would go towards software licensing and things like that. Front desk staff to work at the front desk. $115,000 goes to what we call supplemental instruction. Now, Eric, this is along the lines of what we were talking about before, where supplemental instruction really is an approach to tutoring which has really gained a lot of momentum over the last 10 or so years. Supplemental instruction, the way it essentially works is that if you're taking a class that is considered at risk, so a class that has a high rate of students that receive a D, an F, or a W, and I mean, if you look at the rates, some of these classes have upwards of 43%. I mean, it's really high. So if a class like that is targeted, classes like Accounting 201, Chemistry 121, a lot of these types of courses, essentially what you would have is at the beginning of first day of classes on your syllabus, you would have a supplemental instruction section is essentially what it would be. It's a tutor essentially who attends your class, so they know what kind of course material is being covered, and they hold essentially group study hours for that class specifically. And we did a pilot program in the spring of spring of 2008. And if you look at the data, which is also included in the budget packet, the data indicates that students that were enrolled in supplemental instruction courses did have a higher rate of success than students who were not. And so supplemental instruction nationwide is something that's been proven to work, and it's something a new direction that we really would like to go in terms of academic support. And so with that money, we'd be able to fund about 55 sections. 15,000 would be for walk-in labs along the lines of what they are now, where we have drop-in physics labs, those kinds of things. There would be a subsidization for individual tutoring. The way it works now, it costs about $60, like we said, for 5 one-on-one sessions with a tutor. What we would do is this subsidy would go towards paying down student hours so that a student can walk in and get a one-on-one appointment with a tutor and not have to charge the full cost for an hour's worth of instruction, which if you go to tutoring off campus or somewhere like that, these tutors can get jobs making upwards of $25, $30, $40 an hour doing the same caliber work. So students would be paying $4 an hour, which is essentially a session, with a one-on-one tutor. And the only reason that we attach any kind of dollar amount to it is essentially because what happened on a lot of other campuses when they started doing these kinds of things that had free one-on-one tutoring, students wouldn't show up. They'd make the appointment, not show up, and waste time. And so what this does is make sure students show up if they do decide to go the route of going through individual tutoring. $68,000 goes towards small group tutoring. Like I said, that's along the same lines of walk-in labs, but you can sign up on a per course basis to say, all right, we would like to have a study group for our course. And also what we'd be able to do is a new policy where if more than 3 to 5 students come in requesting help for a particular course, we can direct some of these resources to have tutor specifically to those classes. There would be 2 graduate assistants to facilitate the supplemental instruction activities, and there would be 2 graduate assistants with a special focus on science, physics, and engineering for upper-level student support. Upper-level engineering and science-type courses are traditionally very difficult to attract tutors for because the people that normally would tutor those courses are the students that are enrolled in those same classes, and so there's a gap in service there. And so we would like to see upper division support for science, physics, and engineering, or just science and engineering, really. And then as this fee would also apply to summer courses, there would be a budget for summer tutoring as well, bringing the grand total for the tutoring component of the student success and activity. Right now, with the letter of intent the way it is, it makes differential tuition not as attractive simply because all of the money does not remain on campus, and that's kind of an issue. And so, in terms of your question, if what we were looking at doing, because I mean I'm not super familiar with Dean Maragakis' proposal for differential tuition, but if this would complement this in any way, some of these funds could be freed up to do whatever, or to supplement it, or we could have these graduate students be dedicated to other upper level courses in accounting or economics or something that are traditionally high risk courses. Okay. New monies would dramatically expand the scope of supplemental instruction, provide subsidies for individual tutoring, provide specific support for upper division engineering and science courses, and greatly expand employment opportunities. The tutoring center currently employs about 30 students, 30 undergraduate students. This would go to about 90 students a semester employed by the tutoring center, along with, like I said, 4 graduate assistantships per year.
For the subsidized individual tutoring,
Sure.
which subjects would be available for that? Which subjects?
All of them.
So you just want to, if somebody comes in asking for a certain accounting subject, would you then find a tutor if you don't have it, or?
Most
what would
likely.
you do?
The way that it kind of works now is that it really operates like that now. Essentially what happens is they have a list of certain courses that are covered because they hire all the tutors at the beginning of the semester typically, and they may do rehires about the middle of the semester. people that work at the tutoring center have a tendency not to